All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name is John MacMullen. I'm the Executive Director of the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub. Happy to welcome you to our second edition of the Collaboration Cafe that we are running here monthly. For those of you who are new to the Big Data Hub world, I'll just give you a quick rundown of who we are and what we do, and then we'll jump into our breakdown of the NSF CyberTraining solicitation. So the Midwest Big Data Hub is a collaboration of several universities in the Midwest, along with other partners, and we are funded by NSF through the Big Data Hubs program. This is part of a national network of 4 hubs funded by NSF that is really focused on community building and outreach around data science activities in each of those regions, and then at a national level for partnering nationally on a variety of projects. So happy to have folks from the Midwest joining, but also folks from other regions as well, and encourage you to reach out to the hub in your region to learn more about their activities. Wanted to mention that we are focused on a variety of priority areas and themes in the Midwest. Some of them are disciplinary and focused on particular communities, but we do have a broader mandate to look at data science education and workforce development, as well as cyber infrastructure. And so those two cross-cutting themes really fit, I think, pretty nicely with the cyber training concept that we'll talk about. What are we trying to do with this webinar series? Well, we've had a lot of input from our community about the need for ways that we can bring together folks from different disciplines, from different institutions across the region to sort of build capacity around proposal development for really large-scale proposal activities, center-level kinds of activities. And so the hub is sort of a natural way to do that, since we are focused on convening communities at that level and really looking across multiple disciplines in the region. And so we thought this was a great way to meet those community needs, particularly in bringing in smaller institutions who may not have as robust a set of resources available at their institutions for proposal development. And so helping to diversify our community and bring in folks who we can help elevate, including early career researchers as well, helping them get engaged in projects that are larger than what they would typically be able to do at that stage of their career. We're also very interested in partnering with non-academic folks as well, so people from industry, government, nonprofits, and other public sector kinds of organizations who have some interest in data science in these cross-cutting ways. So I mentioned before we started the recording that we have a number of resources available to support this ongoing webinar series. So we have our website, of course, but also a Slack community where folks can meet offline when we're not on the call here. We have a shared Google Drive with some running notes and a set of prior awards for all of the solicitations that we talk about on this call. You'll also find the recording for this session and other sessions on our YouTube playlist. Just mentioning a couple of our ground rules. So, as an NSF awarded project, we are under our code of conduct, and that is available on our website. We are talking about primarily very large scale activities, team science kinds of activities on this call. And so we're interested in ideas from all different disciplines and sectors, and we want to make sure that people realize that those ideas are welcome, and we're happy to have those contributions on this call. We are aware that research proposals are competitive, and so this discussion is meant to be a relatively high-level discussion of a particular topic or solicitation. If folks are not comfortable in sharing details of projects that are under development, we understand that, but we're trying to build a community of interest here rather than talking through specific proposals necessarily on this call. And so keeping that in mind, and also keeping in mind the conversations that you have with folks in private, you should probably keep those private without further guidance. So that's our basic plan here for this series. This is our second edition of this. We had one meeting last month focused on the CSSI and CCRI programs at NSF. And so we're on a cyber infrastructure theme for the first couple of months, but we are open to solicitations from other agencies and other funding groups as well. I wanted to make a couple of quick comments about how the Big Data Hub engages on proposals and on these kinds of activities. We engage in a couple of different ways with the community. One is as a partner focused on, again, building community. That's what we do at our core. And so helping projects with communications and outreach and amplification of activities is a classic way that we engage with the community, typically through a letter of collaboration with some terms that are scoped to that engagement kind of activity. And those typically do not have a lot of funding associated with them, so they're a low effort way for folks to get engaged with the hub and participate without having to commit a lot of resources. However, we are open to larger scale collaborations with folks at different kinds of engagements. We still intend to make those non-exclusive relationships. We are open to everybody within the Midwest region, and so we may be providing commitments to a number of parties who are proposing to a particular solicitation. So just want to make folks aware of that. We are trying to be as open as possible with the community about what our engagement looks like, and being supportive of everyone in the region who are proposing to these programs. Any questions, comments before we move on to the solicitation of interest for today? All right. So the topic for this month, as I said, is cyber infrastructure again, but we have a little different spin on it through the CyberTraining solicitation. This is focused more on workforce development rather than infrastructure, technical infrastructure. And so I think this is, obviously NSF used the workforce through this program and others as very important to cyber infrastructure. And so I think those of us who are working at institutions that have large scale cyber infrastructure, understand that there's a staff associated with developing and running those activities, and whether that's research software or whether that's cyber infrastructure development, there's some professional development that folks are really interested in having to help develop their careers. And I think that NSF recognizes that increasingly through these kinds of programs. And so we'll talk through this today. We have some folks on the call here who have been awarded through this program in the past, and we'll hopefully get some insights from them about their experience and what they might suggest to new proposers to this program. On the first slide here, we have some details about the scope of this particular program. It is broken into a couple different tracks. One is a sort of basic pilot track where folks are doing some early scoping about what they would like a larger scale implementation to look like. There's a scaled up version of that called the large scale project conceptualization track, which is really focused on institute level implementation projects. And then there are implementations at two different levels as well. So, once you get past that scoping phase and are interested in developing actual programs, there's a small and a medium track for that activity as well. And so we have a little breakdown here of what that proposal size looks like in terms of dollar amounts. These are the maximum budgets and maximum timelines for each of those different tracks that are shown here. So you can see that they're relatively small budgets, even for the larger implementation track. And so that's something to be mindful of, is what the scope of those activities might look like. This is one of those programs where NSF is helpful in telling us how many awards they expect to make. So it's roughly 12 to 18 with some breakdown of what that looks like in terms of those tracks. This is also one of those programs where NSF has a number of different divisions and directorates engaged in partnering with awardees and looking across the different disciplinary activities. They're interested in a variety of different focus areas. If you look through the details of the solicitation, each of those divisions has some key interests that folks should be aware of if you are looking at this from more of a disciplinary lens. Couple of other quick things to note. They have some limits on PI eligibility in terms of the number of proposals folks can be on. That does not apply to the large scale planning grant for some reason, but it does apply to the other tracks. And again, this is a case where NSF really encourages proposers to reach out to their program officers in the divisions of interest to talk about the concept and get feedback before submitting a proposal. It's not required and there's no letter of intent required, but in our experience, when NSF asks you to talk with them, they're serious about that and would like to give you some feedback on your project. All right, there are a couple of new things in this round. This is a program that has been out for a few years, and so they have, as usual, changed a few things. This particular time, they have removed a set of tracks that they had in an earlier solicitation, but these particular areas are still in focus for the review criteria that they have. So they have switched that up a little bit, but they are still interested on who the communities of interest are here, and we'll talk about that in a moment. They have also added the SBE directorate this time. So this is the Social, Behavioral, and Economic Sciences Directorate at NSF. They are a new addition to the set of divisions and directorates who are participating in this. In the solicitation itself, you'll see a number of short-term and long-term impacts that NSF is interested in for these projects. So they're giving you some good guidance about what to include in your proposal that address those criteria. And they also give you pretty good guidance about what the individual divisions are interested in supporting in partnership with OAC here. There is an official webinar for this solicitation. It doesn't occur until very late in the cycle, early December, but I would encourage folks to participate in that if you're interested in proposing to this. There isn't always a lot of new information. They tend to make it very transparent to proposers, but during the Q&A, you can often learn additional details or guidance from the program officers. So I encourage you to join that if you do decide to propose to this. So let's talk about what they're trying to achieve with this program. Again, we're focused on workforce rather than infrastructure in this case, and really trying to, however, make that connection between the infrastructure and the folks who are developing and using that. And so they have some specific goals that they've laid out around ensuring that all the investments that they have made in cyber infrastructure are actually put to good use and adopted by different communities, integrated into different scientific activities. And so, trying to leverage the investments that they are making and developing the workforce that are actually deploying and using those. They are talking about broadening access to cyber infrastructure in a couple of different ways. One is looking across different scientific disciplines, and another is across different institution types. And so, again, trying to be more broad than necessarily the R1 environment where a lot of cyber infrastructure originates, and really push that out further into smaller institutions, particularly under-resourced institutions and underrepresented groups. All right, so we talked about some of the shifts in this solicitation versus the prior rounds, and they mentioned 3 particular communities of interest. These are specified in even more detail in the solicitation, but we're talking about folks who are developing and deploying and managing cyber infrastructure as the CI professionals, sort of disciplinary and domain-focused contributors to those resources, so bringing the expertise that they have from their areas of interest and contributing that to the development and use of those tools and services, and then the broader collection of users for that set of resources that are being developed. So in the past, these may have been targeted communities for particular activities, and that seems to be something they would like proposers to continue to address here, but in a slightly different way. So I encourage you to check out the details of that in the solicitation and what exactly they're trying to do there. And then just finally, we'll wrap up with the review criteria. This is always helpful to have in the solicitation. They're basically telling you what they want to see in your proposal beyond the standard NSF review criteria. So these are the criteria that are specific to the CyberTraining program. And you can really use these to strengthen your proposal by focusing on what they are asking you to demonstrate to them. In the solicitation, you'll see that some of these apply to some tracks rather than others. And so again, I'd refer you to that document for the details. But again, this gives you a really good roadmap about what they're looking for to see in your proposal about this program. So it does include things like community outreach and being specific about who these services are focused on, addressing the particular goals of the program around broadening the use and bringing in institutions that historically haven't participated here, and really looking at sustainability plans and how to help the community in the long term benefit from the cyber infrastructure that has been developed. All right, so that is my little short rundown of that solicitation. We'll get into the details of that here in a moment and open up the discussion. I want to stop the recording here, but before we do that, I will mention that we're happy to have folks who are watching this at some point in the future join us on the live call. Our next call will be November 18th, where we talk about the AI Institutes program from NSF. There's been a number of those awarded in the Midwest in the past couple of cycles, but we're interested in where the gaps are currently that might be addressed by future proposals. And so if you're interested in that particular program, we're happy to have you join us next month on the 18th. And feel free to look at our website and our cafe materials and join that community for more engagement. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording here. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll shift into discussion mode here momentarily.